Well, our top focus story this morning continues to remain Covaxin approval by WHO. WHO's technical advisory group on Tuesday sought additional clarifications from Bharat Biotech for its COVID-19 vaccine Covaxin. The WHO said that they need to conduct a final risk-benefit assessment before granting emergency use listing to the vaccine. The technical advisory group will now meet on the 3rd of November for a final assessment, they say. The Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech, which has developed Covaxin, had submitted an expression of interest to the WHO for emergency listing. Remember, back on the 19th of April, over 10% of India's population has been vaccinated with Covaxin, and WHO's Soumya Swaminathan, in fact, also tweeted to say that the WHO's independent technical advisory group met. They've asked for additional clarifications from the manufacturer, and all of that will only happen now on the 3rd of November if the data is received soon. So remember, the first time that Bharat Biotech applied for emergency use listing with the WHO was on the 19th of April. And the next meeting now is going to take place on the 3rd of November. This is, of course, important for 10% of India's, more than 10% of India's population that has been vaccinated with the Covaxin COVID-19 vaccine. We'll keep a close watch on all those developments, but let's shift our focus to the other big story we're tracking today. The Supreme Court will pronounce its judgment on a batch of petitions seeking a court-monitored probe into the alleged unauthorized surveillance using the Pegasus software made by an Israeli firm, the NSO Group. The Supreme Court had earlier said that it was in the process of forming an independent committee of experts to probe the matter. And moving on to the other big development that we're tracking, the extremely twisted drugs on cruise case in which Aryan Khan is behind bars got even murkier. When Aryan Khan was denied bail in the High Court on Tuesday, but two others who were actually found in possession of drugs were granted bail. Now, Mukul Rohatgi, arguing for Aryan Khan, has said that he's a victim in this case, and Aryan was a special guest. There were no drugs that were recovered from him on the cruise ship, and therefore there's no case of conscious possession or drug consumption that can be made against Aryan Khan. Mukul Rohatgi also maintained in the Bombay High Court yesterday that the approach must not be to put people in jail. These are young boys. They can be sent to rehab. They don't need to undergo a trial. One accused was not on the cruise's phone chats that have been recovered from 2019. They're not linked to the current scenario. That's the other argument that's been made. But here's the twist in the case, and this is what has led many to question on whether there are double standards when it comes to Aryan Khan's bail, because there are two others in this case who've been given bail. Manish Rajgaria and Avin Sahu, accused in the cruise ship drugs case, have been given bail. In contrast to Aryan, Rajgaria has actually been accused of possession. Sahu has actually been accused of consumption. But despite the possession and consumption charge, these two have been given bail, and Aryan Khan, who's not been accused of possession or consumption, continues to remain behind bars for 3 weeks and counting. And this is now an ugly political face-off. This story took a political turn earlier on when Nawab Malik of the NCP, who's been consistently raising doubts over the conduct of officer in charge, Sameer Wankhede, has now levelled fresh allegations that have been countered, well, by none other than Mrs. Wankhede. Listen in.
लेकिन मेरी जानकारी है कि इस शहर में समीर वानखेड़े दो प्राइवेट व्यक्ति के जरिए लोगों के फोन इंटरसेप्ट कर रहा है। एक व्यक्ति जिसने इस संस्था का इस्तेमाल करके हजारों करोड़ रुपए की वसूली की।
मेरा पति झूठा नहीं है तो क्यों हम लोग सहन करें? वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू टेक दिस। हम लोग क्यों जाए कोर्ट में? हम लोग क्यों जाए? आरोप तो वो लगा रहे हैं ना, आरोप वो लगा रहे हैं तो उनको जाना चाहिए कोर्ट में। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि समीर जी की जॉब और उनकी काम करने की शैली से, क्योंकि वो ऑनेस्ट ऑफिसर है, उससे बहुत लोगों को अड़चन होती होगी, बहुत लोग चाहते कि वो कुर्सी से हट जाए।
The Central Bureau of Investigation has arrested a serving Indian Navy officer along with two retired officers linked to the leak of confidential information on the upgrade of the Indian Navy's Kilo class submarines. Navy sources have confirmed that a probe is being headed by a Vice Admiral and a Rear Admiral. The serving officer who shared the classified information has the rank of commander and is based in Mumbai. Other serving officers are also being questioned. more arrests may be possible in this case. It is unclear at this point whether this information has been passed on to the foreign intelligence agencies or not. Meanwhile, the big political focus after the high drama in Punjab that ended with the resignation of Captain Amarinder Singh and his meeting subsequently with BJP leaders, putting all speculation to rest. Captain Amarinder Singh is likely today to launch his own political party ahead of the elections in Punjab. What really is going to be the future course of action that Captain Amarinder Singh takes? Will he support the BJP? Will he join hands with the BJP? All of those, of course, are questions that still need to be answered. He has, of course, made it clear to the press in the past that he's not going to be allying with the BJP or joining the BJP over the farmers issue, but he is going to be launching his own political party, and those developments are likely to take place today. Now, Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao is not in the fray in the October 30th by-election in Huzurabad, and yet it is a prestige battle for him to quell any challenge to his leadership.
BJP candidate Itala Rajender is the reason Huzurabad has turned into a prestige battle for the Telangana Rashtra Samiti. Four-time MLA Rajender joined the BJP after he was removed as Health Minister by Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao in May following allegations of land grabbing.
400 కోట్ల రూపాయలు ఖర్చు పెట్టారు. ఇంకా ఎన్ని వందల కోట్లైనా అక్రమంగా సంపాదించిన డబ్బులు ఖర్చు పెట్టి ఈటలందరూ ముఖం అసలు కనబడదని చెప్పి హుకుం జారీ చేశారు. ఊర్లే బార్ షాపులుగా మార్చి మద్యం ఏళ్ళైపోతా ఉంది.
TRS candidate Gelu Srinivas Yadav is a student leader, not a political heavyweight. But Finance Minister Harish Rao, who is usually in charge of all prestigious electoral battles for the TRS, has been camping in Huzurabad to ensure KCR's image is not tainted because of the outcome here.
ఒక్క ఛాన్స్ మా గెల్లు సింగ్ తీయండి. గెల్లు సింగ్ సోపతికి నేను కూడా వస్తా. నెలకి సార్ మరి మీ ప్రేమ మాకు ఉండాలి, మీ ఆశీర్వాదం మాకు ఉండాలి. ఈ అబద్ధాల బీజేపీ మాటలు నమ్మకం దయచేసి.
Congress Chief Revant Reddy and legislator Sitaka are among those who have campaigned for party candidate Venkat Balmur, who has been NSUI president in Telangana. The TRS must win to reinforce the supremacy of KCR and to also quell any future political dissent. For the BJP, a win would enthuse the party cadres to emerge as a realistic challenger to the TRS in 2023. Reports suggest a lot of money and liquor is flowing in Huzurabad. With camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Well, moving on to the other big political story we're tracking from Bihar. In by-elections, the ruling party in any state usually is believed to have an edge over the rivals. But in Bihar, where polling on 2 assembly seats will take place on the 30th of October, the opposition has done some simple social engineering to challenge Nitish Kumar. Here's a look.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, accompanied by other leaders of NDA alliance in Tarapur, one of the 2 seats which votes on Saturday following the COVID deaths of 2 MLAs. Nitish showcases his government's work and highlights that the NDA is united in Bihar unlike the opposition RJD, Congress and others in Mahagathbandhan which has fallen apart.
पहले कौन काम होता था जी, कोई काम किए थे और हम लोगों ने जितना काम किया भूल गए और उसके बाद 15 साल रहे कुछ नहीं किया. हम लोग आए 2005 में और एक काम किया.
Unlike Nitish Kumar, who's campaigned for 2 days, RJD's Tejashwi has been virtually camping here for the last 10 days, reaching out, interacting with the crowds.
महंगाई इतना हो गया कि
A year ago, Tejaswi led the RJD to 75 seats. compared to Nitish leading his party to just 43 seats, forming the government thanks to the BJP's numbers.
हम सोचे आप लोगों के पास फिर से हम आकर के रुके, क्योंकि ये जो इलाका पूरा है ये लालू जी का गढ़ है.
It may be only 2 seats, but it's an all-out battle. Unlike Nitish, who put up candidates from the same caste of the late candidates, Tejashwi gave new candidates from castes seen as traditional NDA supporters. That has forced almost all NDA legislators and ministers to camp here to counter this attempt by RJD to reach out to other castes. With Manish Kumar and camera person Habib Ali in Tarapur, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Welcome back. Our top focus story today. WHO's Technical Advisory Group on Tuesday has sought additional clarifications from Bharat Biotech before approving Covaxin for emergency use. WHO has said that they need to conduct a final risk-benefit assessment for the emergency use listing of the Covaxin vaccine. The Technical Advisory Group will now meet on the 3rd of November for a final assessment. Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech, which has developed Covaxin, had submitted an expression of interest to the WHO on the 19th of April for the vaccine's emergency use listing. The WHO chief scientist Soumya Swaminathan tweeted to say that the final assessment on Wednesday the 3rd will only happen if data is received soon. So this, of course, is the big story we're tracking. The World Health Organization Independent Technical Advisory Group met and has asked for additional clarifications from Bharat Biotech to conduct a final risk-benefit assessment for global use of Covaxin. They're going to reconvene for final assessment on the 3rd of November, which is Wednesday, and approval will, of course, only be given if the data is received. We'll keep a close watch on all those developments. Well, moving on to the other big story, we're tracking farmers in Madhya Pradesh have been facing an acute fertilizer crisis amid the peak harvesting season. With patients running short, some of them are now protesting. Some others have resorted to looting bags of fertilizers last week in the Morena district. This is ironically the district which is home to Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar. Here's the full story.
In several places across Madhya Pradesh, a new crisis for farmers. Long queues for fertilizers here in Sagar. In Ashoknagar, hundreds slept outside in Mungauli block headquarters just so that they can get a token early in the morning to buy fertilizer. Farmers also shouted slogans against the government demanding DAP, a commonly used fertilizer in several other districts. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar admitted that there is a shortage but blamed international crisis.
DAP फर्टिलाइजर का थोड़ा शॉर्टेज है क्योंकि हम DAP को इंपोर्ट करते हैं और उसके भाव भी बढ़े हैं।
Yesterday, Congress MLA from Bana in Sagar, Tarwar Singh Lodi, broke down alleging DAP fertilizer issued for the farmers of his constituency was diverted to Niwari, where the by-elections are scheduled on October 30th.
शिवराज आपके विश्वास को कभी नहीं टूटने देगा।
Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has directed the officers to inform farmers about alternatives, like manure and regular monitoring of available stocks. He also promised strict action against black marketing of fertilizers.
As the crisis deepens, Madhya Pradesh government is preparing to invoke NSA and the farmers are blaming black marketing and hoarding of the fertilizer for the DAP crisis. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan and Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Rishika Barua. Our top focus story continues to remain, well, the approval for Covaxin, which continues to be pending before the World Health Organization. It's been 7 months since Bharat Biotech applied for emergency use listing of Covaxin, and WHO's technical advisory group yesterday sought additional clarifications from Bharat Biotech for Covaxin to conduct a final risk-benefit assessment for emergency use listing of the vaccine. The technical advisory group will now meet on the 3rd of November for a final assessment. Now, this is the big story we're tracking. Remember, there is over 10% of our population that has been inoculated with Covaxin, and this approval, this emergency use listing by WHO, is imperative for Covaxin vaccinated individuals to be able to undertake travel, especially. Joining us on the broadcast, Professor Dr. Anita Ramesh Chandra. She's a senior medical oncologist, Apollo Speciality Hospitals from Chennai. We also have Dr. Romil Tikku, Associate Director, Internal Medicine, Max Healthcare, with us. Thank you both very much for joining us. Dr. Tikku, to you first. While the WHO has said that they need more details from Covaxin to conduct a final risk assessment before granting emergency use listing, we've heard this all too many times before. The first time that Bharat Biotech actually submitted an expression of interest for emergency use listing was in April. What's causing this delay?
Well, you can't blame them for that. Due diligence has to be done by WHO before giving the approval, and it's the same for all countries and all vaccines. See, they've sought some additional clarification, some additional data, and we're pretty confident that this will be the 6th vaccine which will get the approval from WHO sooner or later, because there's enough robust data to support the claims of the manufacturer. And the vaccine is being used in India. 100 million people have already received it here, and it's been approved in 14 countries outside of India, where more than 70 million people have already received it. So whatever apprehensions they have will be taken care of by providing them the additional clarifications. This is a normal process, and we should not be worried about it. We should be pretty confident that by the end of the week, Bharat Biotech will provide them with all the clarifications, the data, and it will be the biggest gift for India just before Diwali, hopefully on 3rd of November, that we'll get a nod. Because so many people have already received it, and there's no reason why they would not give it a nod. I mean, it has to be the 6th vaccine, and it will help lots of people who have received it.
But there have been, Dr. Tikku, a series of meetings that have taken place, to deliberate on the emergency use listing of Covaxin. And, it's almost like it plays out like a script. At the end of every meeting, there's another date that's set because more data is wanted. Dr. Anita Ramesh Chandra, explain to our viewers, what does this mean? Has Bharat Biotech not submitted adequate data? Is WHO not happy with the quality of data that's been submitted? Where do you think that this emergency use listing is stuck for the last 7 months?
Yes, so starting from April, what we need to do is to give our robust data of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And even you can give the data of phase 4, because already the vaccine is in the market for a couple of months. See how the approval goes. It is called the risk-benefit ratio. So how safe is the product for for India? What are the side effects? These are the two main things any clinical trial takes or needs to decide its approval for. Okay, now until and unless you have a robust data saying yes, it is safe, and it is also safe and efficacious. See, we know Covaxin has 77% overall effect on preventing symptomatic viral infection and 65% effect on the Delta variant. But then all these data has to be clubbed in and submitted to WHO. Also, they need peer-reviewed articles in major journals to say that yes, it has also been reviewed by the journal and it has been produced in front of them. These are some of the things that is needed. Peer-reviewed journal, and evidence in public domain. You submit the entire details with statistical images.
It's a very important point that you raise, because Dr. Tikku, this is the other apprehension with Covaxin, the fact that there is no robust peer-reviewed data for the phase 3, or rather the final trials of Covaxin that has come to light just yet. Do you think that's perhaps one of the sticking points? That's perhaps one of the lacunae as to why this vaccine has not been approved by the WHO just yet?
Well, I don't think that is one of the main reasons, because there was data which was published of the phase 2 trials in Lancet, if I'm not wrong, and phase 3 trials, there's enough robust data. This was largest trial, one of the largest trials.
But there's still no published phase 3 peer-reviewed data, is there?
Well, I'm not too sure about that. I don't think the phase 3 trials have been published yet.
Yes.
But having said that, enough data has been already provided to WHO, and there's no reason why they would be wanting for some journal to publish it before giving it a nod. So I don't think that is one of their criterias. But having said that, we do need to provide them additional clarifications as far as risk-benefit ratio is concerned, because they have to be fully sure, confident before giving it a nod. And that is how the process is. I'm pretty sure it's been the same with all. That's why only 5 vaccines have received the nod till now.
Yes.
I mean, there's no harm in providing them additional data. And sooner or later, this data will be published in some peer-reviewed journal. We're very sure about that. That's why 14 countries are already using it, and millions of people all over the world have received the vaccine.
But that's the worrying bit, isn't it? Dr. Chandra, that's the worrying bit, that millions of people have received the vaccine. In India, over 10% of our population has been vaccinated with Covaxin, and yet, the WHO doesn't seem confident about this vaccine. The WHO still wants more data.
Yes, see, the WHO has to go along with their rules and regulation protocol and SOP being an ethics body. I think on the part of the WHO, they also need to expedite, as well as the company needs to expedite to submit their proper data to WHO so that we get it. And we know that only if you see the approval, there are many vaccines waiting in the WHO list for approval. Only 5, that is AstraZeneca, yes, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Sinopharm. 5 has been approved. Rest are all waiting. So the system is robust because it's a global thing. And I think we should put forward whatever is needed at the earliest.
I think
the phase 4 data.
Yes, and you're right. There are many vaccines that are waiting for emergency use listing, but how many of those vaccines that are still waiting are actually already being administered to millions across the world? I think that's an important question that needs to be answered. One sincerely hopes that Bharat Biotech is able to submit whatever data the WHO is seeking. And on the 3rd of November, in fact, there is good news for all those Indians who've been given the Covaxin vaccine. Thank you both very much for joining us on this important story, one that we will continue to track very closely. I want to shift our focus, however, now to the other big development that we are tracking. The Supreme Court is likely to pronounce its judgment on a batch of petitions seeking a court-monitored probe into the alleged unauthorized surveillance using the Pegasus software made by an Israeli firm, NSO Group. The court is essentially today going to take a call on whether there will be a court-monitored investigation into Pegasus or not. The Supreme Court had earlier said that it was in the process of forming an independent committee of experts to probe the matter. This judgment is likely to be given in a short while from now at around 10:30 a.m. by a 3-judge bench of Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramana, Justice Suryakant and Justice Hema Kohli. Now, after a detailed hearing in the case, the top court has said that it was in the process of forming an independent committee of experts to probe the matter. Let's go across to Sukirti joining us. Sukirti, the fact that the court has said that it is in the process of forming an independent committee of experts to probe the matter, is that perhaps an indication that this is now going to be a court-monitored probe? What can one expect to see happen in a short while from now?
Yes, what is being expected as of now, because as per the Supreme Court's own statements on September 23rd, CJI N.V. Ramana had said that the order on Pegasus was taking time because the Supreme Court was in the process of constituting a committee of experts. Some of the people that they had approached at that point on September 23rd, they had declined to be a member of this committee for personal reasons, but the court had said that we are still in the process and we are trying other people as well. So whether or not the Supreme Court has had success so far is a question, but definitely as per the efforts that were made by the Supreme Court till that point, that is the direction in which things were going. So very likely that is going to be announced. If we compare it to the stance of the centre so far, the centre itself had proposed that while we are unwilling to file a detailed affidavit with details of whether Pegasus was used or not, because there are national security concerns, we are okay with forming a committee of independent experts. However, Centre had proposed that they would form the committee itself. In this case, what is likely to happen, that the committee would be formed by the Supreme Court. So even center's committee would have been ultimately under the supervision of the court only. But yes, the say on who are going to be the members, that is likely going to be from the Supreme Court's end. But all statements at this point being made based on what the Supreme Court had earlier claimed, changed their mind, and whether they've come up with some other alternative solution, that remains to be seen at 10:30 a.m. when the order finally comes out.
All right, thanks very much, Sukirti. We'll keep a close watch on all those developments from the Supreme Court on the Pegasus case. Meanwhile, the other big story that we're tracking, the other big case that we're tracking is, of course, from the Bombay High Court, which is the Aryan Khan case. Now, this case has gotten even murkier. Aryan Khan was denied bail in the High Court yesterday, but two others, interestingly, were given bail. There were elaborate arguments that were made by Aryan Khan's lawyer, Mukul Rohatgi, who even talked about how he should be sent to rehab and not jail, as he is a victim in this case. But interestingly, and Saurabh Gupta joins us with the very latest. Saurabh's been covering every detail and development of this case. Saurabh, what's interesting is that while Aryan Khan has not been given bail, there are two others who've been given bail, and those two were accused of possession and consumption. This has raised the question of whether there are double standards.
Well, let me just clarify two things. One is, of course, Aryan Khan's bail petition is being pending in the Bombay High Court. It's hearing the petition currently. And the Bombay High Court, of course, hasn't denied him bail. It's the lower court, the special NDPS court, that's denied him bail. But this same court, the lower NDPS court, has given two others bail. Now, this is, of course, something that many are wondering. But the lawyer for the accused who got bail say that they've managed to establish that there are no chats to show any consumption, even though recovery has been made from one of the accused, which is not the same in the case of Aryan Khan. So, on what exact arguments and reasoning they've got bail is something that the detailed order will reveal. But at this point, yes, there is that, of course, a question mark as to how two accused have got bail, while one accused from whom no recovery has been made, no consumption has been proved, except some chats to show what the NCB claims are conversations about drugs and consumption, is something that, of course, many are questioning. Now, Aryan Khan's bail petition will continue to be heard by the Bombay High Court today. It will, of course, be heard in the second half post-lunch session. Aryan Khan's, counsel at this point, was Mukul Rohatgi. Mukul Rohatgi argued on his behalf in the Bombay High Court and spoke in detail about the legislative intent of the law and how this is, of course, not right to keep a 23-year-old in jail from whom no recovery has been made, no consumption has been proved, and of course there is nothing to suggest that he's part of a drug cartel or financing the drug trade. That's something that the former Attorney General of India, Mukul Rohatgi, who took up this case, argued in the Bombay High Court. The ASG, Additional Solicitor General Aryan Singh, will argue on behalf of the NCB. The arguments for the other two accused, Munmun Dhamecha and Arbaz Merchant, will also continue. Senior Counsel Amit Desai will argue for Arbaz Merchant. And, of course, post the arguments are completed, both lawyers have indicated that they'll take about 45 minutes each. And also, if we add another 45 minutes, it is possible that the arguments may be completed today. And if the arguments are completed today, the court will have the discretion of passing orders today itself, or it might reserve, its orders for later, as it has to pass a detailed order on whatever decision it takes.
All right, Saurabh, thanks very much for joining us with that update. The hearing will continue in the Bombay High Court today. Whether or not Aryan Khan and others will be given bail or whether the order will be reserved is, of course, a question that will be answered only later today. And, of course, this is an issue, remember, that has now turned political. Nawab Malik of the NCP has consistently been raising doubts over the conduct of officer in charge Sameer Wankhede.
लेकिन मेरी जानकारी है कि इस शहर में समीर वानखेड़े दो प्राइवेट व्यक्ति के जरिए लोगों के फ़ोन इंटरसेप्ट कर रहा है। एक व्यक्ति जिसने इस संस्था का इस्तेमाल करके हजारों करोड़ रुपए की वसूली की।
मेरा पति झूठा नहीं है तो क्यों हम लोग सहन करें? वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू टेक दिस। हम लोग क्यों जाए कोर्ट में? हम लोग क्यों जाए? आरोप तो वो लगा रहे हैं ना, आरोप वो लगा रहे हैं तो उनको जाना चाहिए कोर्ट में। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि समीर जी की जॉब और उनकी काम करने की शैली से, क्योंकि वो ऑनेस्ट ऑफिसर है, उससे बहुत लोगों को अड़चन होती होगी, बहुत लोग चाहते कि वो कुर्सी से हट जाए।
We're going to continue to keep a close watch on that hearing later today. Meanwhile, we're slipping into a short break. Coming up on the other side, 6 people, including 5 juveniles, have been arrested for assaulting and harassing a minor in government school campus in Bengaluru. We'll bring you the details. Welcome back. 6 people, including 5 juveniles, have been arrested for assaulting and harassing minor students in a government school campus in Bengaluru. Children between the age group of 10 to 13 years studying in a government school were targets of a gang of 6 to 8 students who bullied them. A couple of videos that were shot discreetly by local residents showed the abuse that the children were subject to. In one such video clip, the gang actually tied up the children to a tree and forced them to smoke bidis. In another clip, students were made to sit while a gang member holding a stick beat them one by one. Most of the accused are doing menial factory jobs and a couple of them are students. They are all between the age group of 16 to 19 years of age. The adult accused has been sent to judicial custody while the others have been sent to a juvenile home. They've been booked under various sections of the Juvenile Justice Act and the IPC. We'll keep a close watch on that story. Meanwhile, short break here. Coming up on the other side, rivals Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav face off ahead of the by-polls on Saturday. Welcome back. The big political focus. Captain Amarinder Singh is all set to launch his own political party. There's a briefing by the ex-Punjab Chief Minister that's scheduled to take place at 11 a.m. and that's when he's likely to make a formal announcement. Captain Amarinder Singh, remember, quit as Chief Minister in September after a fallout with Navjot Singh Sidhu in the Congress leadership. He's also come out very publicly and talked about a seat-sharing arrangement with the BJP only under the condition that the farmers' issue is resolved. He said that he can consider tying up with the BJP or breakaway Akali factions. However, the precondition to that is the resolution of the ongoing farmers' agitation. Meanwhile, the Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao is not in the fray in the October 30th by-election in Hyderabad, and yet it is a prestige battle for him to quell any challenge to his leadership.
BJP candidate Itala Rajender is the reason Hyderabad has turned into a prestige battle for the Telangana Rashtra Samiti. 4-time MLA Rajender joined the BJP after he was removed as Health Minister by Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao in May following allegations of land grabbing.
400-500 కోట్ల రూపాయలు ఖర్చు పెట్టారు. ఇంకా ఎన్ని వందల కోట్లైనా అక్రమంగా సంపాదించిన డబ్బులు ఖర్చు పెట్టి ఈటలందరూ ముఖం అసెంబ్లీలో కనబడదని చెప్పి హుకుం జారీ చేశారు. ఇది ఊర్లే బార్ షాపులుగా మార్చి మద్యం ఏళ్ళై పారుతా ఉంది.
TRS candidate Gelu Srinivas Yadav is a student leader, not a political heavyweight. But Finance Minister Harish Rao, who is usually in charge of all prestigious electoral battles for the TRS, has been camping in Hyderabad to ensure KCR's image is not tainted because of the outcome here.
ఒక్క ఛాన్స్ మా గెల్లు సీన్ తీయండి. గెల్లు సీన్ సోపతికి నేను కూడా వస్తా. నెలకు 2 సార్లు. మరి మీ ప్రేమ మాకు ఉండాలి, మీ ఆశీర్వాదం మాకు ఉండాలి. ఈ అబద్ధాల బీజేపీల మాటలు నమ్మకం దయచేసి.
Congress Chief Revant Reddy and legislator Sitaka are among those who have campaigned for party candidate Venkat Balmur, who has been NSUI president in Telangana. must win to reinforce the supremacy of KCR and to also quell any future political dissent. For the BJP, a win would enthuse the party cadres to emerge as a realistic challenger to the TRS in 2023. Reports suggest a lot of money and liquor is flowing in Hyderabad. With camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Well, it's a prestige battle that's being fought in Bihar as well in the run-up to the by-elections. The ruling party is usually believed to have the edge, but ahead of the October 30th by-election, the opposition, especially the RJD, has done some simple social engineering to challenge Chief Minister Nitish Kumar.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, accompanied by other leaders of NDA alliance in Tarapur, one of the two seats which votes on Saturday following the COVID deaths of two MLAs. Nitish showcases his government's work and highlights that the NDA is united in Bihar, unlike the opposition RJD, Congress and others in Mahagathbandhan, which has fallen apart.
पहले कौन काम होता था जी? कोई काम किए थे और हम लोगों ने जितना काम किया भूल गए और उसके बाद 15 साल रहे कुछ नहीं किया. हम लोग आए 2005 में और एक काम किया.
Unlike Nitish Kumar, who's campaigned for 2 days, RJD's Tejashwi has been virtually camping here for the last 10 days, reaching out, interacting with the crowds. A year ago, Tejaswi led the RJD to 75 seats, compared to Nitish leading his party to just 43 seats, forming the government thanks to the BJP's numbers.
हम सोचे आप लोगों के पास फिर से हम आकर के रुके क्योंकि ये जो इलाका पूरा है ये लालू जी का गढ़ है.
It may be only 2 seats, but it's an all-out battle. Unlike Nitish, who put up candidates from the same caste of the late candidates, Tejashwi gave new candidates from castes seen as traditional NDA supporters. That has forced almost all NDA legislators and ministers to camp here to counter this attempt by RJD to reach out to other castes. With Manish Kumar and camera person Habib Ali in Tarapur, Joshua Chin for NDTV.
Meanwhile, there were loud protests by youth over unemployment that greeted the Bihar Chief Minister on Tuesday at a rally in the run-up to the October 30th by-poll at Tarapur. Now, while the Chief Minister accused opposition parties of engineering the protests, the rivals RJD have criticised him for losing his mind when confronted with questions on the job crisis. Meanwhile, Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav faced off ahead of the by-poll on Saturday. Lalu Yadav said that his party will ensure the immersion of Nitish Kumar's party in the election, and Nitish Kumar laughingly responded saying he can do anything, even get me shot.
ऐसे तो तेजस्वी यादव जी पूरा सब जगह घूम ही रहे हैं, उखाड़ के वही फेंक चुके हैं उनको. बाकी जो बचा है उसका हम विसर्जन कर देंगे. हमारी पार्टी बहुत मजबूत वोटों से जीतेगी. आप लोगों से अपील है कि आपसे फिर मिलेंगे, हम मीटिंग में सभा में मिलेंगे.
कह रहे हैं कि हम यहाँ पटना आए हैं नीतीश जी का विसर्जन करने के लिए.
छोड़िए न, कर दे, गोलियां मरवा दे. सबसे अच्छा यही होगा.
रोजगार का मुद्दा,
बाकी कुछ नहीं कर सकते. अगर चाहें तो गोली मरवा सकते और कुछ नहीं कर सकते. समझ गए ना.
Well, that of course is the big story that we're tracking from Bihar. Let's now shift our focus to the big story we're tracking from Madhya Pradesh, where farmers have been facing an acute fertilizer crisis amid the peak of the harvesting season. With patients running short, some of them have been protesting, some others resorted to looting bags of fertilizer last week in the Morena district, ironically the home of Union Agriculture Minister Amarinder Singh Tomar. All of this as Madhya Pradesh ministers continue to campaign for the Saturday by-poll.
In several places across Madhya Pradesh, a new crisis for farmers. Long queues for fertilizers here in Sagar. In Ashoknagar, hundreds slept outside in Mungauli block headquarters just so that they can get a token early in the morning to buy fertilizer. Farmers also shouted slogans against the government demanding DAP, a commonly used fertilizer in several other districts. Agriculture Minister Amarinder Singh admitted that there is a shortage but blamed international crisis.
DAP फर्टिलाइजर का थोड़ा शॉर्टेज है क्योंकि हम DAP को इंपोर्ट करते हैं और उसके भाव भी बढ़े हैं।
Yesterday, Congress MLA from Banda in Sagar, Tarwar Singh Lodi, broke down alleging DAP fertilizer issued for the farmers of his constituency was diverted to Niwari, where the by-elections are scheduled on October 30th.
शिवराज आपके विश्वास को कभी नहीं टूटने देगा।
Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has directed the officers to inform farmers about alternatives, like manure and regular monitoring of available stocks. He also promised strict action against black marketing of fertilizers.
As the crisis deepens, Madhya Pradesh government is preparing to invoke NSA and the farmers are blaming black marketing and hoarding of the fertilizer for the DAP crisis. In Bhopal, with camera person Rizwan Khan and Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
Moving on to the big story, we're tracking from Tripura, where a mosque and some shops have been vandalized in the Panisagar subdivision of North Tripura during a rally. Section 144 has been imposed here. Tight security has also been put in place in sensitive areas. Now, this is a rally that took place and it was in fact in protest over the recent attack on puja pandals in Bangladesh during Durga Puja. Meanwhile, the billion-dollar league, the IPL, well, Ness Wadia, the co-owner of Punjab Kings, spoke to NDTV about it.
Ness, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast. Your first reaction to the value of the bids.
Good evening, Rika. I hope all is well with you and the family and everyone. I think it's long overdue. I think it was unfortunate in 2010 when we had two teams come in at large amounts of money and then they couldn't pay. I think it's without doubt one of the most established leagues in the world. It's got the largest viewership, and it's high time that it received the accolades and the evaluation that it did. And I think it's amazing how BCCI and, you know, the entire support staff, you know, everyone included, I think has done a phenomenal job, and very happy that it's finally getting the value that it deserves.
Now, you spent about 350 crore in 2008. Let me ask you, what is the expected value of Punjab Kings right now?
Expected value is 7,000 crores, right? I mean, that's the threshold. In fact, it might even be more, because if you look at the calculations and you work it out, we have positive cash flows. So tomorrow, if someone were to invest in Punjab Kings or any of the other franchises which might be available for investment, we have a constant cash flow at the moment without any outflow. So as you've said on your screen, 375 to 6,000 is wrong. You've taken an average, but again, an average would have been about 6,300. Between 5,495 and 7,000. But listen, you know, I mean, the point is that any current franchise is currently cash positive. We've got a very strong balance sheet, a very strong, consistent inflow. Many businesses across the world, any business, I mean, if you can turn on and say, okay, I'm guaranteed this amount of income per year, plus or minus 5%, very few businesses can boast of that.
You know, you just mentioned about the TV rights deal. Can you put a number? Because last time it was around 16,000 crore rupees.
Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, you're in the media, Rika, so you would know better. But listen, it's growing. It's moving up. I mean, if you go by only what was done earlier, chances are it could go close to double.
With that, we're slipping into a short break. Coming up on the other side, NDTV speaks exclusively to Angelina Jolie, who stars in Marvel's much talked about superhero film, Eternals.
Hi, Angelina, Don. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This one is for your fans in India. Angelina, first question to you. You know, you do great films. You do outstanding work that's inspiring to so many people. Does being a part of MCU add anything more to your already glorious hat?
Well, thank you. I was very excited to join the MCU. And above all, I was very excited to join this particular family within the MCU and with this very thoughtful director. I love what with this particular family, the step we have taken forward into a better view of how the world really is and a better representation. And we are so strong because of our diversity in this film. So I was very happy to join. So yes, and Marvel, I was very aware of the fans and not wanting to disappoint them. And I take very seriously the Marvel fans and universe, and you hope to, and all the other actors who've come before us to make great characters. We wanted to not let anybody down.
Right, you won't do that. Don, to you, at what point did you hear the entire star cast and what was your reaction?
Oh, well, same thing. I mean, I was a big fan of Marvel, and then I got this role, and I was really happy and so excited and so grateful. And then I was a big fan of Chloe Zhao, the director, and I was glad working with her. And then also we have one of the greatest actor of the history, Angie's here. So I was, really, really happy to join this family. So, yeah,
great.
I'm still happy.
I know. I think it's new for us to do this, so it's very exciting for us. It's the beginning.
You guys are looking happy. Angelina, you took your lovely kids for the premiere. We saw a lovely picture of all of them. What did they say about their mom's superhero avatar?
They're very honest with me. And they really liked it. They really thought it was a great movie. They had lots of different thoughts on all the different characters. Right. They, of course, love Gilgamesh because Gilgamesh protects mom. So, but they really responded to it. I was so happy.
Right. Don, if you could talk about Chloe's direction, what is she on the set like? All the actors in the world would like to know this.
She's very, she seems like she's good at everything. She's very artistic and entertaining at the same time. And then she knows how to communicate with actors. And then she's using this different camera angle for it's kind of new type of shooting for a new superhero movie. Wow. Yeah, it's a little different. I felt that's something different. Yeah, and then she's very intelligent, and then she's a very good person too. So she's very open minded, and then she became a good friend too. So it's great working with her.
Great. All good people got together and made this amazing movie. Thank you for entertaining us. Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Dawn.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.